Welcome to the podcast Life After Addiction and Indictment. I'm your host, Steve Cloward, and I spent most of the last decade and well over $100,000 on coaches, consultants, masterminds, and events trying to figure out how to reclaim my life again. On this podcast, I'm going to share the tools, the tips, the tricks, and the hacks that allowed me to forgive myself so that I could reclaim my life again. I'll be interviewing experts in mindset, leadership, entrepreneurship, sales, marketing, branding, and so much more. I'm glad you're here. Sit back and relax and enjoy the show.
Let's go! This is Life After Addiction and Indictment.
Hey folks, welcome back to Life After Addiction and Indictment. Today I've got a special guest. I've got a veteran who has served our country and who's doing some great things with an organization called the Warrior's Heart. I believe he's over administrations. He's a U.S. Marine, one of the toughest of the tough out there, protecting us and fighting for our freedom. So I want to welcome Michael O'Dell to the show. Thanks for being here, Michael.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm excited about it.
Oh yeah, appreciate you taking the time out. So, tell us a little bit about what the Warrior's Heart organization is and what you guys are doing.
Yeah. So Warrior's Heart. So what I do here, I'm the admissions director. So I oversee quite a few different things, but the majority is the admissions department. So Warrior's Heart is a substance abuse treatment center. We focus on the addiction, alcohol, drugs, prescription medication, doesn't matter, right? We focus there, but we have an emphasis on post-traumatic stress, so PTSD.
Gotcha.
Survivor's guilt, moral injury, right? That kind of thing that comes along with our warriors' time in service.
Yeah.
Alongside of addiction.
Yeah.
And,
go ahead.
That's our focus, right? That's and we have my team manages a crisis line. So we've got the numbers on our website, warriorsheart.com, and anybody struggling, any warrior, EMT, EMS, paramedic, firefighter, police officer, veteran, active duty, any warrior that's struggling can call that line, and my team or myself will answer that call and help guide them through that process.
Well, that's huge because, some of the things I've been involved in, I know just how bad that can be and how many it's affecting. I don't have the up-to-date stats. I'm sure you do with the number of suicides per day. Isn't it? It's a pretty big number. Isn't it like, I remember it was years ago when I was doing some things, but I believe it was like 8 a day. Do you know what it is currently?
So at 22, it was, that's where Mission 22 and 22 Kill and a lot of these organizations got kind of started and got started from is 22 veterans a day were committed suicide. And since we've been opened, and other partners too that are on the same front lines of this fight, since we've been open, we have seen a decrease in that number. It's hard to say what it is. It's not 22 anymore. It's dropping, but it's dropping slow. It's still
one's too many. It's crazy. It's just hard to believe that we have such great people that have sacrificed everything, and then they come home with the traumas, and it's not even, a kinetic war, whatever, that ends up taking their life. It's hard to believe, but it just shows you how important organizations like Warrior's Heart is and the impact that you can have.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit, what was when did you serve? And what was your experience in the military?
Yeah, so when I was 19, I've thought about it over and over. I always get asked a question, and I've just never been able to pinpoint the answer. I don't know why I joined the Marine Corps.
Really?
I don't. I could say it was for this or that. I could say it was to, have a better life, or to get away from the alcohol, or to be something better than what I was. I don't really know though. At 19 years old, I was struggling, and I just went to the recruiting station and signed up. It was like the only thing I knew I could do. It was weird, but so when I was 19, I joined the Marines, and I was lucky. So I was a Texas Marine, right? Joined in Texas, and went to boot camp in California, and then went to combat training and everything after that. And out of probably 200 Marines, me and a friend of mine that I met in boot camp got stationed in Hawaii. Everybody else got to go to Camp Lejeune out in North Carolina or
You're in Hawaii.
Yeah, we got to go to Hawaii. So that's where I spent my 4 years. I was in Hawaii. And during that time, I had never left the state of Texas. So that was that was an adventure. Just in itself, going to Hawaii. While I was there, our unit 3, I was with 3 3rd Battalion, 3rd Marines, and we deployed. It's an infantry battalion. There's 3 units in Hawaii, Marine Corps units in Hawaii, and each one rotates. One is basically on leave, one is training for deployment, and one is deployed. So you just cycle every 7 months, just cycle. And so quickly I did 2 back-to-back deployments, and then I was like, I'm done.
Really?
Yeah.
Where did you go?
So my first deployment was to Fallujah, Iraq in 2007, 2008 timeframe. And my second deployment was end of 2008 into 2009. And then I got out in 2010.
Okay. So what kind of action did you see while you were over there? I mean, were you in?
It wasn't as heavy as it had been, like in 2003, 2004 was pretty heavy, but Ramadi was, my second deployment was heavier than the first deployment. But I'll tell you, the worst thing, the worst thing I would say was we lost a Marine, a buddy of ours in our unit to suicide. Like,
oh wow. Why you were deployed?
A month maybe into the deployment.
Damn.
Yeah, that was the heaviest of it all. Like
I'll bet.
That's not something that they might train on it now, but back in 2008, 2009, that was not something that at least me or any of the Marines I was with was trained to respond to. Like, we're trained in combat arms, shorthand combat. We're trained to respond to combat triage, right? Wounds, bullet wounds, all that stuff. They teach all that stuff. You got to know that in combat.
Yeah.
But you don't train on how to respond to another brother's suicide.
Yeah.
It's like,
that's not very, is that common or not? It's not very common, I would assume.
It's not very common. I know specifically of a couple, although this was the only one that me and my unit was a part of, right? Like, it was the only one. And it was heavy. It devastated our unit pretty heavily. A lot of us, that's what we brought back from the deployment.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That had to play a big impact on everybody. I would imagine that would be tough. So you come back and then, you got out. What kind of struggles did you face from a, chemical or alcohol situation?
Yeah.
How long?
That's a great question. It was pretty bad. So I picked up alcohol, when I was 14 years old.
Okay.
And I loved it when I was 14 years old. And so that was a problem. It was a problem really quick. A lot of my friends were like, "Oh, this tastes bad." Then I was like,
thank goodness that was me. Or I might have been dead with mixing pills.
Yeah. I loved it. I don't know what it was. If I loved the taste, if I loved the way it made me feel, I just know that it was me.
Yeah.
And so at a young age, I quickly became, an alcoholic. And
Wow.
by the time I was 17 years old, I had already been in trouble with the law. I'd already been on probation. I had already been arrested. I
Wow.
quit high school. And that was all before the Marine Corps.
Yeah. No kidding.
And so while I was in the Marine Corps, my addiction took on an even darker role. I'll say the first 2 years of my enlistment, it was kind of fun, getting drunk, partying with your friends, going out in town, causing trouble. But then when we came back from that deployment to Ramadi, it was different. And that's when my addiction became dark and chaotic. And that's part of the reason why I got out of the Marine Corps. I got an honorable discharge, but the chance to re-enlist because of how much trouble I was getting in was pretty slim. So when they told me, you probably can't re-enlist, I was like, okay, then bye. And so I,
Gotcha.
got out, and it just took on a whole new level of chaos when I got out of the Marine Corps. I was drinking every day, heavily, liquor, beer, whatever, it didn't matter, just drinking. And, I've always been able to get good jobs, construction, oil field, equipment operating, I consider those all great jobs. You make good money. It's hard work. You stay in shape. Good. And I just kept getting fired. I'd do good for a year, and then they'd let me go because I couldn't show up to work. And then the same thing again and again. And that cycle never stopped. I totaled cars. I should be dead. I mean, a lot of us out there should be dead.
Yeah.
And it's just chaos, man. Total chaos for quite a few years. One of the turning points, I'll say, in my addiction was when I went from alcohol to a drug addiction. What I did, and people do it all the time, is I knew that I was an alcoholic, addicted, chemical dependency, all that stuff. And I went to treatment, relapsed after treatment, did that whole stuff. I just wasn't ready.
Yeah.
But then I started using drugs. And when I was using drugs, I would drink less alcohol.
Yes, replacing one to the other.
Yeah. So I switched poisons, and I went from a crazy heavy alcohol addiction to a crazy heavy drug addiction.
Wow.
And then that continued for quite a few years. And it was pretty bad, man.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. So what was it that, kind of triggered you to wake up or to realize that there was something major and you just wanted to make a change?
So I have two kids. I have two children. I have custody of those kids now too. Thank you, recovery, and
Yeah, that's awesome.
my faith. But that turning point, I thought was going to be when my son was born, but it wasn't. You can't.
Well, get that.
You can't get sober for other people. Some people, sure, they can get sober for their kids, but for me, there was no way for me to get sober for anybody but myself. I couldn't do it for my kids. I couldn't do it for my parents, friends. I tried.
Yep.
Didn't work.
And
so I thought it was going to work getting sober for my son. And in fact, that's when it got really bad. Like when my son was born is when my addiction even went further.
I can see that actually because I saw that with me a little bit, because whatever it is, just thinking out loud, because I've never thought about it until you mentioned that, can be guilt that we should be better, or whatever. There's obviously a lot that goes on subconsciously, and so you're drowning that pain that is coming up, anyway, but go ahead. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good. You're okay. And it's what I was doing. I wanted to be, man, I'm a good person. I know that even in my addiction, I was a good person. I was making the bad choices,
Yep.
but I was a good person.
Yep.
And eventually, I've been on, outside of the 4 years that I was in the Marine Corps, I've been on probation of some, from the age of 15 to prison, basically.
Wow.
And that was the pivotal moment for me. Was I had been on probation for drug charges. My son was 2 years old, and this moment happened where I got indicted for felony evading arrest in a motor vehicle. And what happened was I just didn't pull over. I was drunk, didn't want to go to jail, so I just kept driving. It's stupid, but that's what I did.
Yep.
And so I went to jail for that, and I bonded out. And when I got indicted for it, I had court, right? So I wrote the court date down on my calendar. My mom wrote the court date down on the calendar. Swear it was the same date that was on the paper indictment. I swear. And my mom is a squared away person.
Yeah.
She's squared away. I wasn't, but she was. We both had the same date. I go to court on that day, and they arrest me for missing court.
Oh my gosh.
And then I'm sitting in jail, and I call my mom, and I'm like, Mom, there has to be a mistake. I'm a drug and alcoholic, right? So I'm fighting for life here. Mom, there's a mistake.
Exactly.
You gotta get me out of here. And she looks at the indictment, and we wrote down the wrong day.
Wow. Both of you.
Both of us did. How'd that happen? I don't know. I don't know. So that was the moment when I realized I'm not getting out of jail. It was they were 2 unbondable warrants.
Oh gosh.
And then one warrant, it was like $150,000 cash, which is just
wow.
You could have made it 10,000 cash, and I still wouldn't have been able
We're
to
getting out.
But it was physically impossible for me to get out of jail now. You see, my whole life I've had an excuse. I'd go to jail, and then I'd get out. I'd go to jail, and I'd get out. I'd go to jail, and I'd get out. I was never completely confined.
Yep.
Now I was.
Yep.
And that's when I put my face down in my Bible, and I started working on my higher power, my recovery, 12-step program, all that stuff. And I was just putting in the work. And I finally go to court, and in court, the judge offers me an 8-year sentence.
Holy hell.
I'm like, geez, and then I'm thinking, I serve my country. Not that I deserve anything different, but I'm thinking dude, I'm not a criminal. I just can't stop using drugs and alcohol. I need help. But 8 years in prison, and my son was 2 years old. It was so I prayed about it. I prayed about it, and I said, Lord, 8 years is too much. I'm bargaining with God now, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, 8 years is too much. But what is good is 3 years. That's what I said. I said 3 years is good. I said I'll do 3 years, but 8 years is too much. And I'm bargaining, and I'm praying. Wow. I go to court a month later, and the judge offered me 3 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's unreal.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, I tell that story to people, and they're like, why didn't you pray to get out of jail?
Yeah, exactly.
Listen,
because somebody more powerful than us knows what was going to work for you. I mean, that's just my instinct tells me. And just like those dates, I mean, your mom and you made that mistake.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Somebody else is pulling the strings here,
Absolutely.
It's incredible.
So it just absolutely incredible. And so now that I'm standing before the judge, and the judge is I didn't ask him for 3 years either. My attorney told me to keep my mouth shut. So yes, sir, I
Wow.
can do that. I can keep my mouth shut. And the judge offered me 3 years. And so now I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, I have to sign on this now. I already prayed, I begged God, I got what I wanted. And then I thought, and I really thought this, I thought, when am I going to start keeping commitments to myself?
That's huge.
It was mind blowing. And I looked at that paper, I signed it with a smile on my face. Who does that? And the judge asked me, why do you think that something's funny? I said, no, sir, this is what I prayed for. And so
Wow.
so
Well, right then you took your power back by starting to live your commitment to yourself.
yeah.
That's, I mean, my hair standing up on end because I've been in the same situations and understood that until we learn to live our word to ourselves, nothing else matters. I mean, because you're going to continue not to other people if you can't do it to yourself,
Mhm.
And life just works differently when you do that. It's crazy.
That was the first commitment that I had ever kept throughout my addiction. Sure, when I was a kid, yeah,
Right.
whatever. But in my addiction, that was the first commitment that I had intentionally ever made to myself and God. That was the first one, and it was the first one that I kept that I didn't want to keep.
Oh yeah, no kidding.
You know what I mean? Like I can't lie and say that I wanted to do that.
Right.
I didn't want to do that. But doing the right thing, even when you don't want to do it, is freedom.
Yep.
It really is freedom. And so I signed on it, and I called my parents and I said, hey, I went to court today. I signed on 3 years in Texas Department of Criminal Justice, and I love you guys. Yeah.
Wow.
And, they were taking care of my son, and so I knew he was safe. And, he was fine. But then it gets even crazier. So in prison, prison is this dark place. There's fights. There's sexual stuff. I mean, it's
Crazy.
pretty similar to the movies. I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
And so I was scared. I was nervous. I didn't know what to expect. I'd never, been there, all that stuff. And I get to prison, and no one messed with me. Nothing happened to me. Everywhere I went, and this is just everywhere I went. So they send you to different rooms and different cells and different dorms and you just always move in, and it kind of sucks. But everywhere I went was, I'll call it, a dark place until it wasn't.
Wow.
And then it was, I was at peace. I was at peace in prison. I was at the most peace I'd ever had in my life was in prison. The most peace. I
get that.
was able to practice patience. I was able to learn how to deal with different people. I was able to learn how to communicate. I taught Bible studies every day. I started teaching Bible study. I grew up. You wouldn't catch me doing this podcast growing up. I was shy. I was quiet. I was nervous. I was scared to talk to people. That's how I grew up. And I was even that way in the Marine Corps too. I was just kind of quiet.
Do you think, let me ask you this, because that resonates with me, because I think I was the same way, until I got to know someone or got in a situation I was comfortable with. Do you think that your alcoholism, fed that stuck with you because that helped those insecurities, if that's what they were? You know what I mean? Whether some people call it like liquid courage, because I know with opiates, for me, they kind of make me open up, but you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's true for me,
Yeah, definitely. Anytime that I was drinking, I was social, talkative, liquid courage, all that stuff. I've never thought about that. The only thing that I do know is that for the last 6.5 years, I've been sober, and I have been able to speak and talk and communicate and be effective with my communication and my leadership. And I was not that way before I got sober.
Yep, me either. Yeah, me too. Yeah, I think, thanks to our experiences, obviously we grow. And, I think depending on how you look back at the trials too, that also can give you confidence. Another reason I wanted to stop and bring that up is for those who listen to this, who maybe still are struggling. You really have to look at the underlying reasons why you're doing what you're doing, because until you know what those are and truly address those, you're going to really, for the most part, continue to struggle staying sober, at least from my experience. And so that's why I brought it up. Plus, I know that's why I guess like the opiates, when I started taking them. But anyway, yeah, that's crazy. So you did the 3 years, and you get out. Your son's what, 5-ish at that point?
Yeah. So what I did 2 years, and I made parole.
Oh, cool.
I got out a year early. When I got out, I got served papers for child support for a kid.
Your parents were sporting?
No, not even that. That's what I thought until I opened the paper. My son, his name is Tristan, but the person on the paper was a girl, and her name was Madeline. Didn't even have my last name, had a different last name. So I'm getting served papers, and who is this? It's not my kid. So I never saw her again for a couple months. And then one day her mom came and dropped her off at my parents' house, said she was my daughter, and that, she was struggling too. She wasn't doing good. And so she left her at my parents' house. And so we went to Walmart and got a DNA test and, did our thing, and come to find out she's my daughter.
Wow.
So now I come out of prison, I'm sober. I have a strong recovery. I've got a strong faith. I have my son, and now I have another kid that is in fact mine. And life, I tell you, man, life has been a beautiful ride for me since prison. I'm not even going to say since after prison. Since prison, like prison is where I grew.
Started. Yeah.
Like prison changed so much for me. And then everything after prison has just continued to change and continue to get better. Like this job that I have right now at Warriors Heart. I got out of prison. I had an ankle monitor on. I had my background check was this thick. The my HR file is huge.
Good luck getting a job, right?
Yeah, there's no way. And about 3 months after I got out of prison, I met the owner at the gym. He heard my story, and he's like, man, do you want a job? We have a crisis line at Warriors Heart, and I think you'd be great to answer the phone and talk to the warriors that are calling in. And so 4.5 years ago, I started work here at Warriors Heart as an admissions advocate, and over the year, and now I'm the director of the department.
Oh, that's cool.
I have custody of my children. I got full custody of my kids.
Wow. And how old was the daughter then?
2.
Okay. So she was 2 when you got out.
Mm-hmm.
Your son was 4.5 or whatever, just over 4.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And the life is good. Recovery is strong. Faith is strong. The mission here at Warriors Heart, it's when a warrior calls in and they're hey, my name's so-and-so. I'm an Army or Marine Corps veteran. I'm struggling with opiates or alcohol or whatever it is. I need help. I've tried other programs. I can't ever find somebody that I can relate with, blah, blah. They'd be like, hey, slow down, man. slow down, brother. So I got you. I'm a Marine. I'm in recovery.
So cool.
I get it. I've been to prison. I get it. I get it, man. Let's talk about it. And it's rewarding to be able to share that experience
Oh man.
with people that are on the other end of the phone. Cause when you're calling complete strangers
Oh yeah.
for help, you're at your last rope. Like,
No doubt.
you don't just wake up and be like, you know what? I've had enough. I've had too much beer this week. I think I'm going to go to treatment. Like, that's not what happens. You wake up because your life is in chaos. Your family's leaving you. You just got out of jail. Like, you're going through divorce. Your bank account is empty, and you're screaming for help.
Yeah.
Right. So that phone call is heavy. It's heavy, and me and my team, we get to share our experience, and just some of the calls. I'm not gonna lie, some of them are hard, and they're not.
I can't imagine.
They're heavy. It's like, but it's rewarding.
The fulfillment though it's invaluable to me, like I'd do that all day, every day if I could for free, because what else is there other than helping a brother, helping a sister, whatever, I mean, we're all in this deal together, and it's a tough deal,
Yeah.
And so I really respect what you're doing, and know the value is just immense to those people who, like you say, they're at their wits' end, and to have somebody like you and your team to talk to is, likely for many of them, that is the only place that they would have the response, and the support that they particularly need to give themselves a true chance. That's really cool.
Yeah, the team here cares, and not just my team, like the entire team, the client relations staff, the clinical staff, the medical staff, the leadership, the housekeeping, like the people that work here actually give a shit. They care, and you don't find that in a lot of places. You don't find that in the corporate world, and you don't find that in these cookie cutter treatment centers. Nothing wrong with them, but you just don't.
Yeah, their businesses got
that
money to those types, a lot of times, so it's hard. But yeah, so how long has the Warriors, heart been around?
6 years, going on 7.
Man, that's awesome. You've been there 4.5?
4.5. When I started, we I don't know, we might have had 40 employees, maybe 17 clients. Now we have 140 employees.
Holy cow.
A license for 100 inpatient beds.
Wow.
It's amazing. We've, over the last 6 years, fixing to do statistics again at the end of the quarter, but hopefully by the end of this year, we hit our 2,500 warriors who have come through the doors and chosen life over addiction, life over PTSD, life over anxiety and stress, and life instead of suicide, or death, just death in general.
That's huge. Is it one location then?
Right now it is, but there will be more Warriors Hearts in the United States. It's happening a lot quicker than I think. Yeah.
Great. Wow. So do you know, what, I'm just curious of what success rate you have of those that, typically it sticks with? Is it a pretty high percentage?
It is. So I'll go with the low number is around 16 to 20% need to come back. So 80%.
Still pretty. That's good. That's pretty good.
For addiction, I mean,
that's strong. Yeah.
Because you know as good as I do, if a person doesn't want to stay sober, then they're not gonna stay sober. It doesn't matter how much you teach them. It doesn't matter what tools you give them. It doesn't matter how often you call them. It doesn't matter how good the counselors were and how amazing the medication was or how amazing the therapy was, how beautiful the program. None of that matters if a person doesn't even want to stay sober.
Period. End of story. Yep.
Yeah. And that's what my problem was. I went to treatment and I liked the idea
Exactly. Yeah.
of staying sober, but I did not like the feeling of being sober.
Yep.
So it was like, as soon as I got out of treatment, it was like, well, this sucks.
Yeah, exactly.
I
can relate to that, no doubt. It's and that's the key. I mean, everybody has a different events or different whatever a lot of people call bottoms. It's like, I like a lot of people, the basement even has a bottom, sometimes, unfortunately, way too often that's 6 feet under, but it really comes down to the individual. That's like you said earlier, nobody can do it for anybody. It just really comes down to wanting it bad enough, and then knowing why you're doing it so you can work on those things. But man, you guys sound like you have an incredible program. Is it a 501c3 or nonprofit? I'm assuming.
No, so there are tons of 501c3s out there that we partner with and work with to help get people in here that can't afford it. So like just the admission process, right? Like let's say a veteran or first responder or a warrior calls in and they have no insurance, they burnt every bridge, they got $10 in the bank account, treatment's not cheap. It costs a lot of money to have doctors and counselors and all that stuff, right? So they just simply can't afford it. It doesn't matter what they try, they can't afford it. So my team, that's the other thing we get to do, is we get to help them secure the funding so that they can come and it doesn't cost them anything.
Oh, right? That's cool. Yeah.
So
that's big.
Last year, I want to say there was over $1 million just in scholarships and grants for people to come to treatment. Like,
that's very cool.
It's huge.
Wow.
And Warrior's Heart itself gave away, I can't remember the number, but it was thousands of treatment days. Just gave them away scholarships and grants to get people in here. So it's just super cool because it doesn't matter. It literally does not matter what someone's situation is, whether they're rich or poor, they have insurance or not, they have VA benefits or not. Some guys get kicked out of the military for substance abuse.
Yeah.
And then they don't have any benefits because of substance abuse.
Yeah.
But then we tell them to go get help, but they can't because they got kicked out of the military for substance abuse. So like, what happens to those guys?
Backwards, yep.
We don't care. We don't care what 8214 says. If it says dishonorable discharge,
doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter to us. Because
that's the way it should be.
Got kicked out for using drugs.
Yeah, that's the way it should be. I mean, the fact that you guys step up and help them find the funding instead of go find the funding and then come back. I mean, because 99% of those are going to come back, so they're not going to have the ability.
They won't do it.
And it'll push them further the wrong way, So that is really cool, man. You got a great story. And so how the kids doing?
They're phenomenal. My son starts flag football. The skills assessment is on Saturday. My daughter's in school. I got engaged.
Congrats.
On the 4th.
On the 4th?
On the 4th of July.
Oh,
what better day?
Congrats. So cool.
Yeah. And I tell you, I don't get nervous a lot, but I was nervous. Like I was shaking.
Yeah.
I was shaking nervous. But
oh, that's very cool.
Sobriety. So I share this. I share this with a lot of people. There's two things I like to share or get out there into this space. One is that it doesn't matter what, for people that are listening on this call or listen to it in the future or whatever, if you look at your proven track record, you've made it through, and these are irrefutable facts. It's an irrefutable fact. You've made it through 100% of the worst days you've ever gone through. Like 100%. Doesn't matter if you got high or drunk, you made it through 100% of those days. So you have a perfect batting average of making it through whatever it is that you're going through somehow. So there's no excuse. There's no reason that you can't do that again. And then the next day, do it better. And the next day, do it better. Like there's no reason you can't do that. And then the other thing is recovery. Like sometimes people get scared of that word. They think, oh, you're in recovery, you're crazy, or you're a lunatic, or you're too weak, whatever. Like recovery is a beautiful, beautiful word. And I didn't realize truthfully what that word meant to me until I started working a program and started recovering things.
Yeah.
Like my faith, my sanity, my family, my relationships, my finances, my like health. Like the VA used to have me on tons of medications because of high blood pressure and
Oh yeah.
low this and high this. And they don't prescribe them to me anymore.
Yep.
I'm not a doctor, but I don't have to take medication anymore and I'm sober.
I mean, how much better is it get than that? It just doesn't, honestly. I mean, dude, you can just tell. I mean, you can see it in your face. You can see it, you can just tell. I mean, and I remember I used to be worried, I used to play a lot of golf and, I literally was nervous about getting sober, thinking I wouldn't be able to play as well. Just the dumbest things that your stories you tell yourself, and just stupid things to make an excuse to put it off. And, it's crazy. But once you make that choice and then get sober, like it's crazy just how much better it is,
Yeah.
There's just no comparison. But when you're in it, you just can't see it because you don't remember it, being that way.
And also too, for people, myself included, I'm sure you can relate. There's a good chance that you've probably been in your addiction long enough to not remember really what it feels like to not be in your addiction.
Exactly. 100%. Yep.
And so it's hard to communicate to somebody that there's hope.
Yeah.
Because you don't remember the hope.
Yep. And
like I was doom and gloom. Like I'll never get better. I'll always smoke meth. I'll always use heroin. I'll always drink alcohol. I'll always take pills. I'll always hate people. I'll always be a piece of crap. Like I believed that.
Well, that's what I sense with you. Just the short time we've talked is not only did you make the choice, but then, I like to call it, you started working on yourself. You went inward, your faith became important. The things that really matter in this life is where you focused. And then it becomes an attitude and a belief system that just evolves everything, because once you make that choice and then do some of those important things, like your attitude shift of all the things you just said versus how I sense you speak into the world now, the language and everything is so different.
So different. And
we don't understand, I don't think anyway, even though I've tried to learn a lot about it and continue to, just how that, the way we feel, the energy we put out, the words we put out affect everything around us,
100%.
It's huge.
When I dove into personal development as a part not as my recovery, I work a 12-step program, but I also do personal development.
Yeah.
And I've dove in over the last 4 years real heavily with personal development, self-growth, all that stuff. I even started my own company called Vantage Point Training Academy, teaching personal development. Like it's a passion of mine because when you start to grow and you start to change and you start to, like you said, work on those things that matter, working on your internal dialogue, stop saying things like I'll never be sober and start speaking things like I can be sober, I can stay sober, I am sober, I am confident, I am powerful. You you got to change that language. And it does, man, it changes everything.
Yeah, I think both of us were both living proof, because I know obviously you've done that. I've implemented that about 6 years ago, and I've been sober a long time, but I was still struggling after what I went through with my internal dialogue and confidence and stuff. And until I just did that, those I ams and those I haves and all that is just so powerful. It's really crazy, but it's so true.
Yeah.
You can't deny it once you've experienced it and done it. It's like, because literally we can create whatever life we want, comes a choice, and then doing those things to make it happen. It doesn't happen overnight, which I think a lot of people, including myself, failed to follow through many times, but once you commit and continue, you can't deny that over time, things just start to evolve and happen. So, man, I appreciate your time. Where can people find you at the Warriors Heart or anywhere else that they can reach out to you? Are you currently working your other business then, helping people?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
So the Warriors Heart is warriorsheart.com, WARRIORS heart.com. And then they have a meet the team section on the website. So y'all can go there, meet the team, meet me, meet my team, meet the founders, whoever's on there, and just reach out to us.
That's awesome. And I noticed that, that admissions, that line you have, 24/7, doesn't matter when people call, someone's going to be answering.
Yep.
And so if you're listening and you are struggling, just know that we've both been there. And it's hard for me to talk about because it brings back so many brutal memories of being sick and tired of being sick and tired and not knowing where to turn, not knowing who I could reach out to. This is 20 years ago. But when you have a resource where you can talk to someone, whether it be a stranger or not, knowing that they've been where you're at, don't hesitate. Just pick up the phone and dial, and then just let them help you and let God do his thing. And, you deserve a better life, period. We all do. Everyone deserves to be happy. So thanks again, man. I'd love to keep in touch, and I'll have all your information, of course, in the show notes so people can reach out. And just again, thanks for your time and thank you for your service. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. Really enjoyed connecting with you. And you ever want us back on the show for another topic or whatever, just let us know. I'm always happy to jump on here.
I'd love to. So I'll definitely reach out in a couple of months, get you back, and let's just, keep on spreading the word. And, we just help one more person. That's enough for me. I mean, I want to help a lot more than that, but if it only helps one more, I just keep at it. So, So appreciate it again. And we'll be in touch. Thanks a lot, Michael.
Yeah, you're welcome. You take care.
Okay, you too.
All right, bye-bye.
If you're a small business owner and want to acquire 5-star Google reviews on autopilot, Backbone CRM is the platform for you. It is the review and messaging platform for local business. It not only will get you your reviews on autopilot, it makes it easier to convert leads, message customers, get paid all in one place. Not only that, but Backbone will allow you to convert more website visitors into leads and more sales conversations with web chat. You can manage your messages with a single inbox for text, Facebook message, Google messages, web chats, email, and a whole other slew of social platforms. It'll also give you the opportunity, if you miss a call, to automatically text back. So when you're away, Backbone will follow up via text so you never lose another customer. You can grow your audience and know where each and every lead is coming from. Backbone is the all-in-one place platform to get you more leads and customers and Google reviews on autopilot. In fact, one of our clients that we onboarded last week, the day after we launched their company with Backbone, they received 5-star Google reviews the very next day, and they all came in within a 25-minute span. They were blown away. So if you're not afraid of getting more customers to your business, check out the short demo video at www.backbonecrm.io. That's backbonecrm.io. Or you can give us a call at 888-668-5338.